Hi guys, and welcome back to another video on the channel today. Sorry for the delay in uploading new content. I have been away on holiday for the best part of 2 weeks, but seeing as a couple of the recent videos have done really well on YouTube, I thought I was going to start a new series. So what we're going to do is go in depth for each position and things to look for and things to maybe not place so much importance are. Now, bearing in mind, obviously most of the things on the channel are based around lower league management, but many of these principles can be applied further up the footballing pyramid. And I will also discuss about how the higher up you go, how things sort of change in terms of what you look for in your player. So today we are going to load into our Twitch save, which is in San Marino. And we're going to look at our goalkeeper and give you some tips and insight into things to look for when you're recruiting keepers, and how to make your tactics work to their strengths and hide their weaknesses basically. So let's get into our save. So here's our guy, a Gabriel Gamero. As you can see, we are paying him a pricely £0 a week, so we can't be too fussy on what we've got here. But as you can see, straight off the bat, he's got some good abilities here, and obviously some things to avoid. So the first thing I always look for on the keeper is probably not the thing you look for straight away, but it's the height. So as you can see, he's 193 centimeters, so he's going to be taller than most centre backs and strikers, obviously. But he's not massively taller, but he's a fairly tall guy. So on the jumping reach, as you see, 14 is outstanding, really. For this level, anything yellow is really good. But straight away, you can see he's got really good height, he's got good jumping reach, the anticipation isn't too bad, and he's got good bravery. So coming for crosses, he should be very good. You want to decide, take into account decisions as well, because obviously that'll impact on if he's going to come for the ball. Is he going to make the right decision? Because there's nothing worse than a keeper who comes for the ball and doesn't get there, and then just gives the opposition an easy goal, basically. But you see, he's got fairly good aggression. So through a crowd of players, things like corners, if you float a ball into the 6-yard box, he's got good aggression. He's got good decisions. He's got the good jumping reach, so he is going to command that 6-yard box. So when you're defending set pieces and corners and stuff, if you're using a guy like this, you can not maybe worry too much about flooding the 6-yard box. You know that he is anywhere in there. If it's floated, he is going to be really good at coming to get the ball. Now, obviously, he might drop a rick every season or so, considering the anticipation and the decisions. But, for this division, they're good stats. So it's definitely worth taking that into consideration when you set up your set pieces and particularly your corners. Um, so if we look elsewhere, as you can see, 1 stamina, not too bad for a goalkeeper. Not great composure. Anticipation is not great. So as you can see on the roles here, goalkeeper defender, which is basically he keeps the ball out of the net, no nonsense. So typical old school keeper, we know plenty of those. And obviously the other role we got here is the sweeper keeper, which is obviously the new thing that Pep's brought into football, and people start to follow suit. And you look at Arsenal when they recruited David Raya, he is a typical sweeper keeper type, whereas Aaron Ramsdale is obviously more a typical old school goalkeeper. So I straight off the bat, as I've mentioned already, he's very good in the air. So when you're setting up your tactics, we've already talked about set pieces, particularly corners. I wouldn't be too concerned about crosses coming in here. If they float the ball into the box from deep, he's going to be, good at coming in and claiming that and taking the ball. If you've got good centre backs as well, then definitely, worth sending them outside and maybe even encouraging crosses. Now, it's a good way of scoring goals, particularly in lower leagues. So it is something that I would probably maybe leave unticked. As I've talked about in my other tactics video, it's only important to really tick or untick things that you strongly believe in, and not necessarily, you're not quite sure if it's a strength or a weakness of your side. But obviously, with this guy in goal, I would say definitely encourage the crosses. The only problem is, as you can see here, the communication and the command of area isn't as high as I like it to be. Now, it's not an awful stat for this league, and he is 18 years old, and as you can see, he is improving. However, I might just say send him outside, but I wouldn't maybe necessarily encourage the crosses. Now, one of my other videos I did was looking at the opposition team, and if you leave your team instructions vanilla, you can set individual player instructions depending on what the opposition have. So, say if they've got really short strikers, by all accounts, encourage crosses. If they could maybe, win the headers against your centre backs, then maybe it's not worth encouraging the crosses into your box. But you can see he's got very good handling. His kicking is not great, and his one-on-ones isn't great. So if you set, for example, a high line, he is not going to be good at coming out and sweeping the ball because of the forward acceleration. And the composure is not amazing anyway. So even if he did, and obviously the one first touch. So if you go on these, it'll flick it across. Now, as you can see, there is so many negatives to being a sweeper keeper for this guy. The vision, the acceleration, the composure, the first touch. So even if you try getting him to play the ball out, he is going to make the wrong decisions. He's not going to see the passes, and he's going to more likely concede possession easily for your team. Now, obviously, everyone likes to play out from the back in Football Manager. It is probably the meta, but I would discourage this guy playing out. Now, his kicking is not great, and his throwing isn't good. It's a bit better, but it's not great. So what I would say on your tactics is ideally to get him to roll the ball out. Now, this is where you look at your fullbacks and your centre backs and work out who is good on the ball, who has got good first touch, who's got a bit of composure, who's comfortable on the ball. Basically, don't give it to someone who is pretty much scared of the ball and is only there to defend. Give it to someone that's going to be able to take the ball and make a simple pass. They don't have to thread the ball into the strikers, but they have to be able to retain possession, particularly as you're further back on the pitch, that if you make a mistake and concede possession, particularly with a goalkeeper, you're going to concede the ball very near your goal and offer up a lot of high quality opportunities to your opposition. So this guy is very easily just a normal goalkeeper. You don't want to put him on sweeper. Like I say, he's got poor kicking and stuff like that. One-on-ones as well, so that discourages from the high line. That is a bit of a concern. And his agility isn't amazing, but it's decent. But he's 18 years old, and we're in San Marino, so we can't get a goalkeeper that's going to have 10s and 12s, all these statistics. So we've decided to just go with that, and it's very easy to tweak your tactics to suit these strengths and weaknesses. So like I said, let them cross the ball. You could have a lower block, because if you have a higher line and they break the higher line, he is not going to come out and sweep you out, and he's got really poor one-on-one, so you don't really want to be conceding those sort of chances to him. Now, wherever you have a lower back line, you are going to offer them more long-range opportunities, but you're not going to give up so many one-on-ones, basically. So if we have a look at another goalkeeper, so we go down our list, let's bring up, in fact, we haven't even got another goalkeeper here. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done this save. Let's see who is in our, it's been so long, I've got a complete brain fart. So let's go into, there it is. I knew it was somewhere. So let's go in our under 21s. So say if we had this other goalkeeper again. So yeah, first touch, things like that, really poor. Just don't trust him to play the ball out from the back. He's also quite tall. He hasn't quite got the strengths that the other keeper has, but he's not bad. But we're an amateur club, so again, you can't be too picky. We've got a 16-year-old goalkeeper playing left back. That's how good we are. So obviously, if you are looking for a goalkeeper, and say you've set your tactics to play a high line and not encourage the crosses and to force the players inside. And if you're committed to that tactic, then this guy is not going to be the guy for you. What you would be wanting is somebody that is, and you can click on these, but bearing in mind you're in lower league. So the vision isn't too much of a problem. You want to look at decent to good anticipation, positioning, I would say decisions. Now, first touch is nice, and if you've got a high attribute on the first touch, then you would, and particularly if they've got good composure, then you would maybe look to go, support or even attack on those sort of duties. But at lower league, I would say you're better if you can just to focus on someone that's going to keep the ball out the back of the net and can deal with crosses, because lower league there is the sort of go-to tactic is just get the ball into the box very early. The wingers aren't going to be particularly fast, they're not going to be particularly great at dribbling, and so the earlier they can get the ball in the box, the more chances they're going to create, even though they're going to be lower quality chances. So this Gabriel guy, as you can see, he's doing all right for us. Bearing in mind we are an amateur club, he is going to get poached at some point. But he's doing all right for us, and like I said, we can, um, set our tactics around us. But if you are going to look to improve and change your tactics and have a higher line, then you need, again, stamina is one. Acceleration is important as well. So obviously, if they play the ball in behind the defenders, they've got a high line. They have to decide, which is obviously decisions where it's going to to come out and claim the ball or to challenge the attacker, and obviously anticipation and positioning as well. So if they can see that a ball might come over the top, they can put themselves in the best possible position if they need to come running out to claim that. And obviously that comes into acceleration. Stamina, not so much, because it's not going to happen too often in your team. Now, as you see on the technical here, again, one. So this guy is basically a great case for the old school keeper style, and non-league, it is good. Now, obviously, with the distribution, you have the kicking and the throwing. So we are throwing the ball out because our attackers aren't tall at all. Most of them are 160 centimeters, something around that. So they're going to lose most of the headers. So we are throwing the ball out to our fullbacks. So they are okay on the ball, but they're set to take lower risks, and they're just going to try and play the ball into midfield, and then away you go. Now, obviously, if you got good kicking, for example, and good vision, then it would be good for long kicks, because then you can launch counter attacks very quickly. If you've got a good target man, or if you've got quick wingers, if you've got counter as your one of your tactics, then this is a great way to do that. If you have defenders as well who aren't good on the ball, and they are just as bad as sort of this keeper here on the ball, then distributing to them is going to cause you a lot of problems. So again, kicking it long is probably something you want to look into putting on there, so they can get the ball up the pitch quicker. And if you get the ball up the pitch, you can attack and cause your opposition problems. Whereas if you're trying to play it to your defence who aren't comfortable on the ball, then they're going to turn over possession, like I spoke before, and concede a lot of high chances, which is obviously something you want to avoid doing. So I think we've covered everything here. Yeah. So obviously the couple of things we haven't touched on here, the punching, it's not ideal. Ideally, you want that a bit lower, because you want the keeper to come and catch the ball and claim it. So then you have possession, then, rather than punch the ball away and then the ball's up for grabs, basically. But as I said, the level we're at here in San Marino, you can't have everything. So I can deal with that. But if he's going to come out for the ball and punch it clear, I'm very happy with that. And obviously, necessity is something you don't really want in your goalkeeper. You don't want him to just come and do something weird or wacky. Older players, like, remember people like Rene Higuita, Jose Campos, Fabian Barthez, for example, who were good to very good keepers, but they were always potentially one step away from a complete calamity or trying to do something ridiculous. Now, again, in lower leagues, you can't have everything. So, but luckily it's a fairly low stat, so we're not too concerned about that. Now, the one other thing I would say to look at as well is in Football Manager, there's a lot of hidden attributes that you can't see on the screen in the vanilla game. There are ways to unlock it and look into it. I don't personally do it. If you do it, that's up to you. But I think this retains a bit of realism, which is also why I have attribute masking on. So we can't look up someone else from another team in this video, basically, unless I've got them scouted. Now, at this level, they're not great at judging, but they can give you an idea of a couple of hidden mechanics and what their attributes or ratings and scores are for those sort of things. So as you can see here, I mean, obviously his rating, his ability is good, like he said already, with dealing with crosses and balls into the penalty area. So encourage that in your tactics and improve a lot in the future, which is what we get, what we like. Everyone in FM loves, you know, an 18-year-old who's going to improve massively. Unfortunately, he's on amateur contract, so we're not going to get any money back if he does go to a bigger club. About a normal personality for a goalkeeper, it's not, you know, the end of the world here. Obviously, if it's a captain, you want to obviously have the good personality, but other than that, you're okay. So we'll look in the cons. So adapting in the groups, not too much of a problem. We can sort out the training, but again, amateur club, we don't train, so you know there's not really much we can do with that. He has a competitive streak, which occasionally leads into bending the rules. Now, he's not in play that often, so you know if this is on the midfielder, he's involved with the play a lot. It could be an issue. However, as a goalkeeper, not too much. It's not really going to really be a concern. And the one thing here which needs to be working on more consistent if he's to develop in the future. So obviously that means that while he has great potential here at the moment, if you improve the club, you can very easily see him get left behind. He maybe is not going to improve as much as you would hope at 18, but that's just something to wait and see. So there's nothing here that's really standing out as being really good or really bad. Now, if we go onto our reserve goalkeeper, and let's see if we can find. So again, nothing too negative there. Let's have a look on here. Very one-footed. Now, with goalkeepers, you know, particularly if there are, you know, a traditional goalkeeper, it's not too bad because, you know, they're just going to, you know, clear the ball. They're not going to be playing around with it. Now, obviously, if you're playing a sweeper keeper, that could be an issue. Particularly if you're wanting to play out, if they get it on their left foot, or you know, assuming the left foot is their weaker foot, what they're going to do with it. You know, they're going to try and switch onto their right foot, in which case it gives the opposition chance to close them down. It's not a red flag, but it's something to consider, particularly if you go higher up the leagues, then it is something to be concerned of. And add a great consistency to his game. Now, you know, it means he's probably not going to be the best goalkeeper in the world, but you know, at this level, it's not too bad. So the other thing that hasn't come up on there is consistency. Now, obviously, as a goalkeeper, you want them to do the basics and do the basics right. So if they're inconsistent, that means that while they might be very good 6 or 7 games, they could also have 1 or 2 bad games. Now, if they're an outfield player and you know the form's dropping off a little bit or they're not playing well in a certain game, it's very easy to replace them. Now, in lower league, chances are you've got one good keeper and the rest of the keepers aren't very good at all, particularly if you're trying to maximise your wage budget. So if they are inconsistent, then it could be a big problem because, you know, when the goalkeepers make mistakes, they usually lead to goals. Now, you know, if you make a mistake as a striker, it doesn't really get noted because you probably just turn up possession, missed a good chance, but then the play continues. Obviously, as a goalkeeper, you make a mistake, you let a goal in. So one of the other stats as well you can look at here, which I like, particularly goalkeeper stats down here. Now, as you can see here, mistakes leading to goals. Now, this is one of the really important things to look at on goalkeepers because it gives you an idea that you know how good they are at not making mistakes. Really, and you know, obviously the decision attribute is a big deciding factor in that. But also what this page does as well is it can show you your pass completions, your clearances, so it lets you know what he's doing with the ball. Now actually 79% is pretty decent considering we're asking to roll it out and, you know, just take no risks basically. Obviously it could be better, but you know, it's not too bad. We'll probably look at the tactics and just see what is happening there, and seeing if he can focus more on passing the ball to the fullbacks, which is what we got set up here. So yeah, expected goals, that's obviously not really a problem. Gives you clean sheets, gives you a breakdown of the saves and things like that, really. And obviously you can go further into this with analysis and things like that, but most people don't go that in depth. So obviously, like I said, lower league, just pick a goalkeeper that's good at some things and good at, and maybe not too good at a couple of other things, but just compare that to the other keepers you got, and try and find someone that fits in with your tactic, basically. Now, whereas if you start a tactic and find a keeper to suit, or you change your tactics to suit your sorry, pick a goalkeeper to suit your tactics, or a tactics to suit your goalkeeper. Now, the other thing to consider is what your centre backs are like as well. So obviously, if you've got tall centre backs like we have, asking them to put balls into box isn't going to be a problem. Now, obviously, if they're very quick but quite short centre backs, then you probably don't want to be sending them the balls into the box and playing a higher line, which obviously contradicts the goalkeeper you got here. So it might be worth considering changing the goalkeeper, even though he's very good, if you're very happy with the centre backs you've got, or you're finding it hard to recruit centre backs that are good in the air, but are as good as the quicker centre backs that I've just mentioned. Or you can look for a goalkeeper that maybe isn't as good on first reflection as this, but has good, the command of area, and is basically more of a sweeper keeper, even if it's on defend, really. So it's worth considering that as well. If you play sort of halfway house between the two, you're not really playing the players to their full potential. However, if you make one tweak, whereas you recruit a goalkeeper or recruit your defenders, and they're all in sync and in harmony, and they're all working with the same strengths, then it's going to make you much stronger and solid, particularly at long league, because the opposition isn't as good, the managers aren't as tactically astute, so they won't necessarily make the changes to work around your strengths and weaknesses, basically. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough today, but that is just a quick video on what to look for in goalkeepers, particularly with the lower league sort of level that we are playing here, mostly at Oliato. We are going to go live very shortly with this save at twitch.tv/Oliato. So if you do happen to see this video when it goes live, then please do head on over and join in the fun. Anyway, guys, thank you for your time, and we'll see you again in the next one.